Welcome to the Nomad Summit Podcast, your go-to resource for all things nomadism. My name is Palle, and I'm here with Christoph Huebner from the Nomad Summit. Today we're diving into what makes a strong community in the nomad world, how it's built, what keeps it alive, and why it matters more than ever. Our guest is Talbot, the founder of the Remote Creatives, a global community that connects freelancers, entrepreneurs, and remote professionals who want to grow their business while living location-independent lives. Has been a digital nomad for years, helping creatives build sustainable careers on the road and find belonging beyond the usual co-working spaces and Slack groups. In this episode, we'll talk about how she started the Remote Creatives, the lessons she learned from growing an online community across continents, and her take on the future of nomad networking and collaboration. So grab your coffee, or maybe your next plane ticket, and join us as we explore the real connections that keeps the remote work revolution going. Welcome to the Nomad Summit Podcast, episode 23, Building Communities for Nomads with Talbot. Well, hello, Christoph. Good to see you again.
Hi, Palle, and hello, our guest today.
Hi, Talbot.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
So you and I, we're both in the UK right now,
We are indeed, yeah.
And hopefully we'll see each other in a few weeks for World Travel Market and the events happening around that.
It's going to be a great time for sure.
And I'm dialing in from Estonia again today.
Again in Estonia,
Yeah, it's beautiful autumn outside with the yellow and orange and red leaves falling down from the trees.
Is it getting cold there?
I don't want to talk about that.
So, can you briefly share your journey as a nomad and how you decided to start your Remote Creatives?
Sure thing. So, essentially, I've been on-off remote for about 12 years, and I kind of did the whole really stayed remote or like really dragged out going fully remote until I thought, this is absolutely something I wanted to do. So I stayed actually quite remote within the UK for a while, working in and out of London, working around Europe, until I actually realised that no, I want to go fully remote and I want to take this thing like seriously. So yeah, I've been working in marketing and content basically for that long too. And essentially the Remote Creatives came about in a similar way that the Remote Life podcast came about, in that I thought I'll just test out a couple of things, and I was talking to different people about my background. I was talking to different people about like sort of some stuff I could see that could be quite interesting in the space. And people said, oh yeah, you should absolutely like make that a thing. You should really take that forward. So yeah, that's what happened with the Remote Life podcast, for example. It was a 6-episode side project that has now turned into 70 plus episodes 4 years later, full of amazing adventures and conversations. And the Remote Creatives was pretty similar. So my background is in content influencer space. And I was having conversations with people where they were saying, we wish there were more people that we could kind of meet up with that were more creative minded and that we could have more discussions with, we could have more connections. And so the Remote Creatives came to be nearly exactly 2 years ago. It started as a newsletter, kind of sharing more information about building a brand, about how to go about marketing, things like that. And it's now turned into 3 successful in-person meetups and also community that just keeps growing. So
can you do the elevator pitch version of what Remote Creatives is?
60 seconds starting now.
It's a community and platform for remote creative professionals and entrepreneurs.
Okay, we're only at first floor.
What do you do with the other 40 seconds?
It's great. You should join. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll dive more into it as we go along this episode. So let's go back to when you started working as a nomad creative. What was the biggest surprises and misconceptions for you about running your business from anywhere?
So what a lot of people don't know is I actually started my remote journey when I was a study abroad student in Brazil. So essentially I had to find different ways to write my dissertation while I was on my thesis, depending on where you're from, what you call it. But I was living in Brazil during the World Cup, and I had to basically find different ways to source information for my dissertation, because basically the university library went on strike for 6 months. So I had to then go look around, and like Google, the internet, Google Scholar, all that was not what it is today. So I had to really go searching for information. And that's basically how I started learning that actually I don't have to be in the library. I don't have to be in my room. I don't have to be in one place to actually get work done. And that's also how I got started. So I was paid to create content while on my study abroad. So that's where it really, like, the journey kicked off, if you will. Then I think it was just simply a mixture of different conversations that I had once I graduated, where I was kind of seeing that I don't want to be in the office, for one. Like, I don't want to be there like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I don't work that way, for one. That's just not how my brain is wired. And then actually in about 2016, a friend of mine, I was talking to her about this. I was saying, look, I don't really know what to do with my next step in like this next job I want to do, because I don't necessarily want to go in an office. I don't want to, I get so much more done when I'm being creative. And she was like, oh, there's this thing called digital nomads, Han. And I was like, digital what?
Digital what?
What? And she was like, you should go to London and go to these different places that are now like the digital nomad bread and butter places in London, and go see what they're doing. They're all people like you who work on laptops in London, and they're doing their thing. So it was a big accumulation of me testing and trialing how it is that I want to work, understanding myself, because obviously like I worked a couple office jobs where they were saying, oh, you've got to be in the office like from 9 to 5. But of course, I'm sitting there going, I'm not inspired. I'm not necessarily inspired. I'm actually getting more done on the train between Oxford and London than I am on like a job, than I am, for example, say in a very prestigious office in central London. So it was more an accumulation of understanding how I work. And I think that is honestly also a misconception. It's not necessarily that we all want to go gallivant around the world. It's that actually we want to be able to work how we need to, and also that we want to be able to build our own lives around work too.
So what kind of nomad are you now? Are you the kind of nomad with a home base, or are you a slow mat? Are you a fast traveler? What kind of where are you in the world in a typical year?
Oof. So I feel like I've had a bit of a reset this year, but I was sort of on the quick travel digital nomad train, and that's probably why. But I don't know. I don't really call myself a digital nomad because I don't feel like I am one. It's never really stuck for me as a label.
I feel like we need to define first a little bit, because I had a conversation yesterday with some co-living, like pop-up co-living providers, and they were telling me that they are embracing slow travel and want people to stay for a bit. And I thought they were talking about like 2 months, but they were talking about 2 weeks. So what does exactly? So
That sounds like me.
What are you talking about, Han, when you say you were fast or slow? What does that mean?
No, for sure. So in my mind, I think 2 weeks is fast. 2 weeks is fast in my mind, because you basically just get a grasp, possibly. Like you just have time to reset.
I've had a year where my average was 3.5 days in a new place. In 1 year, I stayed in 105 different places.
Oh.
So, yeah, but that was a bit crazy. I was in more than 30 countries that year. So, yeah, that was a bit crazy. Now I'm slowing down.
I was looking back at my Instagram archives, and there were times when I had a base in London, right? But I could be in 3 cities in 1 week regularly. Mm-hmm. And I had the energy for it. I think now, for me, it's more that I want to stay somewhere at least a month. And I remember, because otherwise I feel like I'd not done the destination properly. Like I feel like a weird sort of energy of like, I've been here and I've not been here in a way.
Yeah.
When I was in Mexico City, I stayed for 5 weeks, and people were saying to me the whole time, like, oh, but why don't you want to go visit Oaxaca? Don't you want to go like do Puerto Vallarta? And I was like, I will eventually, but do you realize how much is in Mexico City to do? I feel like I've barely scratched the surface in 5 weeks.
Yeah, for me, when I travel, so it's also like usually at least a month. And my goal is to get a feeling for what it is like to live in that city. That means like finding my favorite bakery and kind of connecting with the local community, go to some local events and stuff to experience what it's like to live there.
I agree.
I think only if I come back to a cafe or a bar and I'm being greeted by the barman or the waitress because they recognize me, then I've been to that place. Everything else is just tourism.
I agree. I feel like you need to, it's understanding that you've got like maybe one or two places where they go, oh, you, yeah, I know you. Well, I kind of like that.
So what motivated you to build a community rather than just doing your solo remote thing?
Okay, here's another misconception, I think, is that remote and digital nomad life is lonely, or that you want to be by yourself
right
the entire time. And it's not that, don't get me wrong, I like being autonomous. I like having my independence, don't get me wrong. But I love being around people. I think it's a real misconception that it's a lonely way to be. I don't know. Like there was a moment where I was traveling quite a bit at the end of last year, and I actually had to say to somebody at one point, look, I'm going somewhere because I've not been by myself for like 2 months. Like I've been traveling like not non-stop, but I've been moving around, but I've not actually been by myself for 24 hours in like 2-3 months. But it's a real misconception that remote and digital nomad life is lonely.
Yeah, sometimes people joke about that these digital nomads are fleeing the office then just to go to a co-working space and have another office with other people. I mean, I often tell them like, but that's a huge difference, because that's at first these are other people that are not working in the same company with you. So it's not about like company gossip and checking each other. It's people who are also working on something and give you this vibe of getting things done and inspire you, but they are other people. And also you choose where you go. It's not like you go to the office because this is the office that your company decided to rent or buy. You go to a co-working space in a city, in a country that you chose.
100%. I completely agree. And I was finding, to answer your question, I was finding that there are a lot of creatives in the remote work spaces. And I say remote work specifically because I feel like they are kind of two different spaces. There are a lot of creatives out there. And I feel like we didn't have necessarily one specific place that we could kind of all come to, or one specific sort of group that we felt like was for us. And so that for me was why part of why the remote creatives is now becoming what it is. I've done 3 meetups around the world, in the Philippines, London and Berlin. And every time I've had people come to the meetup, and that's people I know who happen to be in town, and also people who are new and wanting to connect with fellow remote workers. It's just a kind of different energy, which obviously, like you guys know, having been around your respective spaces too. And that for me was a real big thing. I also really enjoy events. I enjoy putting them together. And for me, I love the opportunity to facilitate spaces where people can just come together, and there's like an energy and like an electricity. Like, so maybe some work doesn't necessarily get done, but then you come away with new connections, you come away with new ideas, like you come away with like this real great just sense of connectivity. So that was a big motivator for me. And again, it's just that kind of creative energy that I feel like wasn't necessarily present until now.
Mm-hmm. So when you launched the Nomad Creative Community, were there any core pillars like values and purpose and formats when you set out?
So I would say that it's kind of similar to what my own personal values, I guess, at the end of the day. Ultimately, I want people to feel like they can be themselves, and whatever that looks like. I want it to be that it's an exciting place. So, for example, the 3 meetups you'll have seen, for example, were all in very Instagrammy, like photo taking places, because again, like it's just that kind of energy. It's not necessarily you're going to go post all over Instagram, we were together today, but it's that kind of bright, exciting, inspiring environment that people love to be around. Like the place we went to in London was an ex police station and had like some of the old memorabilia, like cells and things like that. But it's now pink and like diner vibes, and it's got all this sort of old school. But again, it's about the creating environments that are inspiring, right? That are exciting and colourful. Because also that translates over to the online stuff that we're doing too. And it's having that space where people feel motivated, supported and connected, ultimately. So not really pillars as such, but I guess there is some through line with it all.
So describe us a little bit more what your community looks like. It's a community for creatives, so that is probably like from the classic graphic designer to the photographer to the copywriter, everyone.
The podcasters.
Yep.
Podcasters as well. Lawyers might consider themselves creatives and even tax advisors.
Yeah. Have you guys ever read the book, The Artist's Way?
No.
Nope.
Okay, it's a book that comes up on the podcast all the time, but like a whole thing in the intro of that book, not to give too much away, but I love what they talk about in the introduction to that book is that it's not about being able to call yourself, like claim that you're necessarily a creative person or like, you are an artist, like as a label, but you could be somebody who is, for example, an accountant who loves to play the guitar or who likes to paint, or like you might not seem like the traditional kind of creative. And essentially that kind of leads into why it's called the Remote Creatives and why it's so broad. So, of course, when I first started doing these meetups, obviously with my background working with content creators, people assumed that I was looking to connect with content creators. Or if I said I'm looking for remote creatives, that I was only looking for content creators in, say, a nomad space. But that's just not true. I think that there are so many people, just like with the term digital nomad, there are so many people who consider themselves to have a creative interest, but wouldn't necessarily label themselves as, say, a content creator or whatever it is. So, or like a digital nomad, they remote work, but they might not consider themselves a digital nomad. So it's a broad term because I'm not going to exclude anybody, quite frankly. Like if you are an accountant who just so happens to love painting or taking photos or whatever it is, you're welcome at the meetup.
Or be creative with your accounting.
I don't know how to answer that one, but I can. Oh God, I'm not quite what we're going for. But no, basically the idea behind it is that I think a lot of people assume that because I create content myself, it must just be for content creators, but it's not. It's for a whole spectrum of people who consider themselves to be part of a creative industry or people who consider themselves to enjoy being in creative environments. I'm not going to discriminate, ultimately.
How big is your community?
So currently we have about 700 subscribers on the newsletters. And then we are starting to build up the platform side of it at the moment. So it is a little bit smaller right now, but yeah, we started with the newsletter.
But you have big ambitions.
Hell yeah.
700 is already quite a lot for a community to grow momentum. So if you have the key figures that take it from there and maybe have those meetups in other places where you are not, then that lays the foundation to let things grow from there.
I like to think so. I think so. We just launched, like cheeky little plug, just launched a sort of more like accountability kind of goals group. So that's also one part that we're also building now. And there are still spaces, by the way, if people want to join. But that's one aspect of it. Then other people want to be part of the WhatsApp group where like you can connect with different people around the world. I don't know. I love the idea of being able to eventually empower people to kind of be the ambassadors, as it were, of these things too, because you don't need like me to be in these places for people to also build their own like little hub, if you will. So for me, it's more about empowering a sense of community and empowering people to also build their own thing, I guess.
Does your community have like hotspots, places on the map where you meet regularly, or where most of them are?
Not regularly. We only did it properly. I mean, I've done a couple meetups like along my nomad journey. Like I did a little content creator walk, for example, when I was in Mexico City. Like that was a lot of fun. And then also, and basically we started doing like kind of official the remote creators meetups a year ago when I was in the Philippines. So we've only done 3 so far, and it's been more based around events that have been happening at the time, or for example, when I've known people are in town and they've gone, hey, can we do a meetup? Hopefully going to start snowballing a little bit, but yeah, nowhere regular just yet. I'm open to ideas though.
So Han, what do people get out of it when they join the community? Do you have some stories of members who have transformed their careers as a result of being part of this?
I won't claim to be the person who
I know it's a big question.
Yeah, that's a very big question. I think this early, it's kind of hard to claim that I have transformed lives just yet, or transformed careers.
So no marriages, families inside your community yet?
Not just yet. But you know what? Let's manifest. We'll manifest that now. No, so we did a accountability group in August, and there were some amazing projects and different things that have come out of that, for example. And we're now building on that, I would say. I haven't got anything too big, I guess. It's been just more about, connecting with like different people who might never have crossed paths until now in, like, say, for example, London or in Berlin and whatnot. So it's not too big yet, but there's small stories that you never know may build into something bigger.
Yeah, sounds like you should have one of those community meetups in Chiang Mai, maybe in January. Just saying.
Watch this space, huh?
So you mentioned you're at all these places like Berlin, Philippines, places where it's sometimes not easy to get proper Wi-Fi. How do you organize your connectivity?
Oh, do you know what? I've had better Wi-Fi in the middle of the Albanian Alps, for example, than I have in central London. Like, people wouldn't believe, like, the connection, like, it's really quite crazy. I think, oh no, you've got to be like, no, the middle of nowhere has had better like signal than central London. But no, for me, I use an eSIM in some of these places just to try and, like, obviously keep the connection the same as I go along. And I will say hotspotting is a lifesaver when it comes to these things sometimes.
I am hotspotting right now, and I'm in the area of London, just outside of London, and I'm having problems with my Wi-Fi, so I'm on a hotspot from my phone right now. And you wouldn't expect that from a place like this.
But fortunately, there is a solution. We have this podcast episode brought to you by GigSky. And GigSky 1 is the new global data plan by this OG eSIM provider that is also one of our dear partners of the Nomad Summit in Chiang Mai. Just now, they launched their global data plan subscription. Check out GigSky 1. The link is in the show notes below. And come to Chiang Mai and meet them in person. They have some special offers, including a free month of global data plan in your Nomad Summit premium ticket. One of the premium ticket perks is a full month of global data plan supported by GigSky.
There you go.
Now back to the show.
You could be a great announcer for radio commercials, Chris. I gotta hire you.
Yeah, I'm elevating my career here with you, Palle.
So, Han, the landscape of remote work and digital nomading has changed quite a bit over the last few years. So how has it impacted how you built and evolved the community, these changes?
I suppose what we're all looking for more nowadays is community, ultimately. I feel like at first, a lot of us were sort of doing it for maybe the love of travel or doing it for sort of the freedom of it. But I feel like eventually we all come back to as wanting a sense of community. I think it's always been a thing, but I feel like it's going to become more of a thing, especially with obviously like the introduction of AI, all these like different things that are so many more groups that are now available. I feel like people are going to be looking for some kind of sense of community more than ever before. Whether it looks like, hanging around the same sort of group of digital nomads, whether it looks like hanging out with people with more curated interests. I think that it's going to be an interesting chapter where we start perhaps looking for more aligned or more similar-minded people in that respect, I would say.
So the three of us are nomads, and we like and enjoy the community of other nomads, but on the same token, we also like to have a community among the locals. So is that an issue that we go as nomads to a place like Chiang Mai or Bali and then just hang out with other nomads?
So before I was a nomad, I actually went towards the digital nomad sort of way of doing things. I had actually lived abroad twice already. So I lived in Spain when I was a kid, and I also did a study abroad. So I feel like for me, I've kind of always had an understanding of what it means to integrate and what it means to actually like exist in other cultures different from my own, right? So I think for me, whenever I go away, I always do my best to try and steer away from the more popular, say, hotels, for example. Like I did Airbnbs obviously for a while, but obviously that's got a little bit chaotic, shall we say. But I'll try and essentially sort of, basically mesh myself into the local way of doing things. And also for me, I find that I like to go places where, like, say I have the language, which obviously when you got Spanish and Portuguese or like some grasp on those languages, I feel like I can connect a lot better with those communities too. So it depends. Obviously, like if there's a project, if there is like an event going on, then yes, I would of course be hanging with remote workers and remote lifers. But what I try to do is also build in time to meet with people who are already living there, who know the destination well. And I always try to do my best, like supporting local businesses too.
How about you, Chris, in Estonia? Do you have a lot of Estonian friends there?
Most of them are living here permanently, yeah. Whether Estonians or expats that moved here. I always try to limit my exposure to digital nomads as much as I can. Like if I'm in a hotspot like Madeira Island, I was hanging out or going to nomad events only maximum once a week. And the rest of the time I try to embrace my local circle of friends, my local farmers market, and all these kind of things.
I think that's also one of the things that I'm rather enjoying about co-livings at the moment though as well, because yes, you might meet more like fellow remote workers, but then it's also people who also want to like know where the local events are, who want to know where like the local markets are as well. They want to also, they know they're going to be there for a longer period and they're interested in being there for a longer period. So I feel like the mentality is fairly similar. So I quite like that. I don't know if you guys have been to many of those.
Good point. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Around last Nomad Summit, we stayed with the entire team at Altping River in Chiang Mai. And I really enjoyed that there is a kind of a local event management and community management. So it's people who live there, who grew up there, who speak the language and can guide the group into doing things, seeing things that you otherwise as a solo traveler would barely have access to.
So Han, I'm hopefully going to see you in at the World Travel Market or some of the events there. And are you also planning to come to Chiang Mai in January? Is that on the list?
That feels way too far out. Like, I don't know if it's like that old like nomad vibe in me, but I'm like, oh, God, I don't know if I can commit to that right now. But no, we'll definitely have to see. Honestly, even WTM, that's in 2 weeks, right? And that feels way too far ahead to think about that. There will be, I'm sure, the remote creators. He's laughing. You're laughing at me.
Yeah, I thought I was not looking too far into the future and being very spontaneous, but it seems like you beat me on that.
A lot can happen in 2 weeks. You know?
I'm still very glad that we already sold quite a bunch of early bird tickets for the Nomad Summit. Early bird phase is over now, but with buying tickets early, you really help the organizers in order to be able to deliver a quality event. So if you're considering as a listener to join the Nomad Summit, the tickets won't get any cheaper. Make your decision. Don't wait until 2 weeks before the event. Get them now. Especially 2 weeks before the event, we intentionally make them more expensive to force people to plan more longer in advance.
There you go. I've been told. But yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. Han, it was a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for jumping on this episode, and I hope to see you very soon.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, we'll see you very soon, and thank you so much, guys, for having me.
Produced by radioguru.co.uk.